Chase, would you rather smash the hottest trans woman in the world or the oldest woman in the world? Honestly, bro, the oldest woman in the world, because then I wouldn't be gay.
You really just want me to just rip you a fucking new one. I swear to God.
Are you like, Chase, how dare you be transphobic?
Yes, actually. What the fuck do you mean? Yes, that was so
Because if I
necessary.
had sex with a trans woman, I'd be having sex with a biological man, and I don't want to do that.
The question is,
that's not what you said, though. That's fine. If that's
because
what you
I'd
want
be
to say.
gay if I had sex with a
That's not
biological
gay.
man.
That's not gay.
That's
And
gay.
I don't even care if you're doing this for like whatever, but like shut the fuck up. Actually,
I'm doing
you look like you have a leader to respect his street
that's too far.
identity.
Why don't you make me shut the fuck up? Because I have an opinion that differs from yours.
I'm not gonna be a part of something that's starting to say shit like that.
She's right. I mean, that's really
But
hateful,
she's not. It would technically be homosexual. A trans woman is a biological man.
I want to meet Chase. Dude, that's mean. I also gotta go.
It's not fucked up. It's real. It's true.
Okay, if you guys want to
It's
respect
factual.
gender identities, that's his though. That's his sexuality.
I'm not allowed to say that. I'm not allowed to say that.
Yes, from a biological woman who doesn't even have any trans friends, that was too fucking far. A man of God who doesn't judge a Christian, yeah.
Yeah, you know what God said? It said He made them man and women. He made them man and women.
He actually said
I just
man,
told you
women,
I'm not
and
gay. I'll
them.
pass on that. Thanks, though.
So.
No, he said God created man,
Nice.
both male and female created he them.
Stating
So
biological
them. So there's
facts would
them.
make
They
people
thems.
walk off the show.
No, the them refers to the men and the women.
No, but he
man
said
is the
them,
gender
so
neutral
it's
word.
like they, them.
Well, he's referring to both of them.
But he said them, so he's like saying man created men and women in them. So he
No, he said in the beginning God created man, both male and female created he them.
Them.
These are the
Them.
types
So
of man.
while other
Them.
countries
Right.
are planning
Male and
to
female.
invade us with debating they, them, the whole thing.
When you refer to multiple people, you say them, right?
Or you could be referring to they, thems.
It's English.
They, thems don't exist. I hate to break it to
I've
you.
met some. It's crazy.
You've met very confused men and sometimes very confused women, but you have never met
Most
an actual
non-binary people I meet are women, not men.
Yeah.
Just gonna put that out there.
Really? Why do you think that is?
Maybe because they don't have to face the consequences of all their friends being jackasses. A woman coming out as non-binary probably will have a friend group that'll accept her more than
a man.
A man
coming out
as non-binary.
Oh, I thought you were saying the women get into this stuff because they're really messed up or something more than the men are. But you're saying that this is a real category of being, and it's just the men are afraid to admit it. You can't seriously believe that.
I do believe there's people who are, I don't know if it's ambiguous or what it is. There's people who were born in their wrong gender. There's people who are born and they don't feel like they fit in either box. Do I think people are born that believe they're cats and stuff? No. I don't believe that shit. No.
There are people who think that, though.
I'm saying no, I don't. I'm not saying that's correct, but I haven't seen anything to back that up. But I just, the fact that you guys, in anyone's right mind would somebody go from, like Bruce Jenner, for example, or Caitlyn Jenner now, for example.
Did you just
successful
dead name?
Successful athlete, Olympian, whatever, all this
Got in
stuff.
the Wheaties box.
Was married to Kris Jenner, had the fucking life of whatever. Unless she truly believed that and felt that deep inside of her core, she ultimately ruined her life for basically a whole decade.
No, he became much more relevant and famous than he was.
I
previously.
highly
Obviously,
disagree.
he was on magazine covers.
Well,
Everybody
he
was
got
talking
way
about him.
more
We're talking
hated.
She's
about
been on magazine covers. She's an Olympian. That's not. She's
But
not
he
on. She's not on.
He was an
covers
Olympian
'cause
many
she's
decades
trans.
ago. No,
but exactly.
He was on a magazine cover for the first time in decades.
But
because
after
he
she
pretended
came
to be a woman.
out as she got way more hate.
Exactly.
And she got
the only thing
ruined
worse than being talked
relationships.
about is not being
But
talked
she
about.
probably
That's
made
how
more
show business
money.
works.
But no, she.
Okay,
she
so
lost a
take
lot of
away. Okay,
relationships.
But the
sorry.
reason he
Take
did
away
that-
Caitlyn Jenner.
Do you know why? The
Okay, no,
reason-
hold on. Put on your basic day-to-day person. Okay, you're not gonna like this one. Okay. No, not you. You, for example. Okay, there's people like you who are super conservative, right in their
Handsome.
views and stuff, and then.
Charming.
They wake up and they want to be a woman.
But is it because they just woke up and want to be a woman, or is it because they finally found the courage to come out with something they've been suppressing their whole lives? I just don't understand why you guys think somebody would risk. Like, yes, some people can benefit from coming out as trans, but most people do not benefit from that. So why would somebody risk their whole livelihood, not even just career, but literally especially black
because
trans
they have
people.
a sexual fetish. Because they have a
Also, why
disordered
does it
sexual
bother
desire.
you?
I think
I
it's
feel like
just
why does
so
it bother
complex.
people?
Because it isn't true.
But why does it
Like,
bother
why
you?
is
It's
that?
not
Yeah.
harming you. It's not hurting anyone.
Well, it
like,
is harming
they're just-
society.
So
a
do
lot.
you go
I mean,
around? Do you go around fighting
because-
people who think the world's flat? Do you go around
You're like,
fighting
you're
them?
harming society.
No, well, because in the case of transgenderism and this ridiculous idea that men can secretly be women and vice versa, there are very practical effects that we see. Like, for instance, if we
Pushed
accept
onto
this,
children.
yeah, well, it's obvious. It's pushed onto children. We're castrating children left and right, which is insane. But also, if we accept transgenderism at all, even for one single adult person, that means that certain things will change in society. Women don't get to
Maybe
have their own
things
bathrooms
need to
anymore.
change.
Women don't get to have, well, perhaps, but at least one could have the debate. Women don't get to have their own bathrooms. Women don't get to have their own sports teams. Women don't get to have their own specific rights and places in society. Protections in civil rights law, they lose that because some men can say that they're women. And so it seems to me the obvious question to ask is not, well, what does it matter to you? Who really cares? First of all, the people pushing this seem to care a lot. But the question to ask is it true? Are these men who say that they're women actually women? Or are they men who are confused or who have weird sexual fetishes or have disordered desires?
Gender-wise, they
Obviously,
are.
it's the
Biologically, they're not. So
What's
gender.
the difference?
The difference is like science, and then the other difference is like how you feel in your head and the way you are in society. There's a huge difference. The difference is like the chromosomes and then your mentality.
Okay, so if there's a
good point.
disagreement between what you're saying is your physical self and your emotional self, your
Yes.
psychological self, then why would you not just change your mind? If the options are chop up your body to make go through gruesome surgeries,
If
that
you're
are gonna
living
probably
with your
shorten
mind
life,
for your whole life and you understand like, oh, I've been trying to change it. Like she said, most people are repressing it and are trying to change it, but they just can't. So why would this is something physical that I can easily go change instead of trying to retrain your thought process over and over and over and over.
But
again.
it's not
it's
so
because they'd rather be
easy,
dead.
though.
They would rather be dead than live in the lie anymore.
But
is
the
what
problem,
it's getting to.
if you bring up like suicidality, there is no evidence that having these surgeries and pretending to be the opposite sex reduces any of that whatsoever. So the
Because
people
there's always going to be,
post-op,
because there's going to be dysphoria forever, especially
Yeah.
from people like you guys
so it
going
doesn't
on
help.
the internet.
No, it's from
fucking
themselves because they know that
bashing
they're living
them
a lie.
every day.
Yeah.
No,
That's
no,
my
you're
whole
not,
thing.
I'm not bashing anybody.
I'm not
No,
saying you.
you,
Okay, maybe I
but-
shouldn't say. Maybe Chase. Because the whole thing. Because I didn't even get to speak on the.
But what
video
he
of me
said
that
was
got played.
totally right.
Okay, so since we're gonna
Sure,
go back to
go
that,
ahead.
the video that got played, right? If you don't want to sleep with a trans woman, that is your prerogative. I don't give a fuck what you want to do. That is your preference. That does not make you transphobic at all. But to get up on a podcast that has almost 4 million viewers and to say that any man who chooses to sleep with a trans woman is now taking part in homosexual, gay activities, I feel like that is wrong. I feel like that is hateful. And for somebody who claims to be so religious, so God, new, born again, virgin, Christian, I think that's very hateful of you. If you want to say, I personally wouldn't do that, that's not for me, then that's your thing. Answer the question. That's how you do it. It's a step further.
Is it hateful to say that a man can't really secretly be a woman?
I'm saying it's hurtful to say that sleeping, for any man to sleep.
The first question you have to answer is not
That's
sleeping
not.
with who.
I'm talking about what happened on the podcast.
No, I know, but
I'm referring to
I'm
that.
picking up on his point. The question is, what is a trans woman? And so what Chase would say and what I would say and what everybody throughout all of human history until 5 minutes ago would say is that a trans woman is just a man who is pretending to be a woman.
So I'm the only one who thinks this in the
I think-
world.
yeah,
You're,
you're
you're in
trying
the
to say.
minority.
No,
yeah.
she's
A lot of
not.
people
Yeah.
are saying it now, but you're historically speaking, yes. Statistically, 0% of people ever have thought that a man wearing
No,
a
there's
dress and a
cultures
That's
where
so
they, there's
incorrect.
cultures where they're
Then what about in
gender
Thailand?
They don't
What
know.
about the femboys in Thailand that
Yeah,
have
well,
existed for
there-
decades and decades
right,
and
there-
decades and decades?
There's
and they're
this third
living.
weird thing in certain cultures, like a modern
So you
culture like Thailand.
don't erase them.
But that's-
Then you're erasing them. That's
No,
like me
but
trying
you
to erase your
are
religion.
even-
If I could be like, oh, well, there's some people who believe in this one
No,
ancient
but-
thing called the Bible.
but
Yeah,
even
some of
the-
them went in Rome with him.
But even
that
when you're
you're
talking about
erasing
when you're
a
talking
whole
about this,
countries.
this weird species of prostitute in Thailand,
Weird species of prostitute.
Yes,
You don't
that's what-
understand how that sounds. You know,
that
that's
sounds
what,
precise.
A weird species. Oh, so now we're not human. So back to
No,
the
a
abortion.
species in the
I'm
technical
just
term.
saying,
Hold on,
bro,
let,
if you're
let
gonna
him
be-
let him explain. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
so it's a type. So even there's this weird phenomenon in Thailand, for example, where there are these guys.
That a
who
lot
get
of
weird
American
surgeries.
men go to.
Yeah, well, they probably shouldn't do that. But the reason that is different is because it's not, those people are not saying, I am really a woman. That's a weird, bizarre cultural carve-out that exists in Thailand. The difference here is, and what you are saying, is that a man who puts on a dress, puts on a wig, chops his body up, calls himself a woman, is actually a woman. And I just don't see how you could believe that that is true.
So she has a vagina, shit, probably fucking tighter than mine, double D racks, hair down to the fucking ass, looks like a woman, talks like a woman, does everything besides menstruate and can give birth. What is separating her between the woman who are infertile, who can't have birth, or a woman after menopause, or the woman who never get their period?
So physically,
are they not women either?
Physically speaking, one, those are pretty big differences, and there are other differences too in terms of their bone density and the shape of.
Oh yeah, because you're gonna. Yeah.
But also there are the chromosomal differences, which is that that woman, as you call it, still chromosomally is a man. And then beyond that, are you actually saying that women are just their bodies? That a woman is nothing more than...
Are you saying a woman is just her chromosomes? She's nothing more than just her chromosomes?
I'm saying a woman is much more than all of that. That actually...
Me too. That's why I'm saying that.
But not just chromosomes.
If she feels... Since the
a
day
woman
she
is
was
also
woke
a
up
soul,
in this...
is what I'm saying.
Yes, and that person woke up the first day of their consciousness, and since they can remember, they remember their soul being a woman or a man or whatever.
Well, that's
trapped.
usually not true. That's usually a sexual
That's why you
fetish
need to
that
understand
develops.
why
But everyone
can I
feels
say
that way.
That's
No,
why.
I'm
So do you
correcting.
believe people aren't gay either then? Do you believe nobody's gay and they just do it for attention as well?
To say I am gay means that I have an attraction to a member of the same sex.
Okay, I'm just clarifying because a lot of people who usually do this trans argument are also arguing that gay people don't exist either.
Nobody denies that certain people have different sexual attractions. In fact,
People deny it all the time. Actually, they say it's a choice that they're choosing to do that. They're not born that way.
They're certainly choosing to engage in certain behaviors.
But
yeah, that's true.
choosing to engage because it's your biological driven.
No, you can
duty.
suppress your own desires. I have all sorts of desires that I repress.
Yes, you can suppress your own desires, but why should somebody?
I want to go get a delicious hard seltzer.
Yes, you can suppress your own desires, but why should somebody have to suppress if it's two legal consenting adults? Why should somebody have to suppress that just because they're the same
we
gender?
have obligations to reality and to the truth.
What's the reality? The reality is we should be a man and a woman. That's the reality.
The reality is that a man in a dress is not a man, or is not a woman.
Okay, but now I was trying to get away from something else.
This is why the whole
Go ahead,
the whole
Sam.
thing goes back to where it's called transgender and not trans-sex. Like you can't change your sex. To the down and the bottom of it, your chromosomes are going to be your chromosomes, but they're changing their gender. And gender is a man-made thing. It's something that we've created. We've created genders and gender roles in our society. We did not create sex. Yes, there's men and female. That goes back to science or God, whatever you would like to say.
If gender is man-made, then you're saying it's artificial. It's not real.
It's not real.
Oh, okay. So then who cares?
Exactly. So why do you care?
Oh, well, if it's not real, then the trans woman is just a man.
For you,
you said-
maybe.
'cause you
But
said
for
the gender's not
her,
real.
she's a woman.
But
and
I
that's
think
fine.
gender is real.
And I don't think it should bother you. And I don't think it should get all these little incel men angry about it.
Do you not think? I mean,
Okay, I think the issue is that this whole conversation, it makes the male role, right? It kind of creates the more, I don't know. I just think the whole argument about gender, it's so pushed out into our society. I don't think it's like this in the rest of the world right now. There's so many other issues, like the whole
rest of the world knows what
like
men and women are.
62 different genders.
Yeah.
It's kind of insane. I mean, I'm not hateful towards anyone. I think as long as you're a good person, you can do whatever you want. I just don't like that it's pushed onto children because like a lot of people that are getting these surgeries, they regret it. And then a lot of children that are put onto hormones, it really messes with your...
And also,
Well,
obviously,
there's a lot of
this is something that is brand new to our society, and there needs to be a lot of more research done and more understanding about it, and like there needs to be laws done. So I understand. I don't think kids should be getting their parts changed.
but I guess my question is, what?
They have to be 18. That's already in place.
No, that's not
You
true.
know
The
that-
transition process can start much younger than that. and
Hormones,
currently
yes,
is.
but they
And
in
obviously puberty
America,
blockers and-
yeah, but in America you cannot
And
get
a social
surgery before the age of 18.
Yeah, but
Legally,
they can put you
you
onto
can, it's
hormones.
legally, you cannot get surgery.
Yeah,
can
because the laws
take-
are somewhat ambiguous.
They
so
can cut your
Yeah.
breasts
Yeah,
off.
they can,
But like I used to teach a lot, and just from experience, and you know I don't know much, so I don't want to like say too
no,
much.
you're right
but-
about almost everything. I'm very impressed with how
like
right
right
you are
and
about
wrong.
many
Like
things.
I don't, don't tell me like you know.
Oh, I'm telling you, I don't care. You can tell me no, but you're
okay,
right about these
so I used
basic
to
things
teach a
like
lot
gender
of
roles.
kids,
Yeah.
right? And a lot of kids I noticed that have a lot of these gender issues, and then they wear their gender on their sleeve, and then they're like, I'm gay, or you know, like
Yeah.
they're like they tend to have depression. They're very like I feel like they need support and help, not just in the gender department where people are pushing them, maybe you should be gay, or maybe you should do this. Like, there's much more.
I had a girl come up to me. I was giving a speech, and she said, "Hey, Michael, thanks for speaking out on the transgender thing, because I had gender dysphoria," and she was young. I mean, this girl was a teenager, and she said, "I had gender dysphoria, and my psychologists were starting to push me down this path of transition."
Like, that's wrong.
But,
I believe that's wrong.
Well, she said, luckily I had good parents and a good priest, and they said, "You're not actually a boy," and guess what happened? She kept going to see psychologists. They figured out that actually she had undiagnosed autism. So they started treating her autism, and what do you know? Her gender dysphoria greatly abated. Now it's basically
It goes back to good family.
Exactly, and because I've been teaching in San Francisco since 2016, so I've seen a lot of how that affects kids. I teach kids all the way from TK through high school. So yes, there is definitely a correlation between the two, but it's typically because those kids, depression can be something that's brought onto you from your environment, or it could be something that's just a chemical imbalance in your brain. It doesn't have to be from a situational.
The chemical imbalance is
before I forget. But usually, a lot of these times is why there's this correlation is because they find that the LGBTQ community or whatever is more accepting. So they think, just because my friends that I choose to hang out with are gay and stuff means I must be. Yes, that's a problem. Yes, they shouldn't be able to just now go to their therapist and say, I want to now change my hormones for sure. That's why I don't, in that situation it was a priest, but in a lot of cases it's usually another therapist intervention. I'm sure you can, in some places it's easy, but I don't have any trans friends personally, but I've watched a lot of experiences online. It is not easy to just go through these surgeries. You have to get documents from family, friends, therapists, psychiatrists, everything. It's not just you wake up one day and say, okay, I'm a boy. They're going to give you hormones. They're going to chop off and do this.
Well,
that's not how it works.
I talked to a girl that is actually exactly what happened. She walked into a Planned Parenthood. She said she had gender dysphoria and she wanted to receive testosterone. And she was able to receive that prescription very quickly.
Testosterone and hormones, it's a lot easier because, unless you're prepubescent, most of the things, not all of them are reversible, because especially testosterone, it's not all reversible. Yeah. But with those things, I could see how it is easier because it is a hormone, because just how those things are given out for other situations besides just trans.
The problem, I guess, is this, which is if you really believe, as you say, that for some people are faking it, right? And some people think they're a cat, and they're not a cat. But for some people, I don't know who these people are, there are really men who are secretly somehow women, and therefore they should transition to become women. So the question is, at what point were they the wrong sex? It's from the moment of birth, right? They were born that way. So if they were born that way, then why wouldn't we trans the kids?
Because that's the whole thing, is how can a child be so certain? They have to grow into those emotions and feelings.
I thought they knew you just said they knew from the earliest moments.
Because they've known from the beginning that something was wrong. That's usually what it is. They know something's wrong, that they're not fitting. Like, for example, but
sometimes they grow out of it.
Well,
I really don't think people grow out of it. I think they're either conditioned to not do it, or they realize the other way might be easier,
or that there's
and then there are people who are faking it. Yeah.
For a lot of people who suffer gender dysphoria, or used to be called gender identity disorder, the vast majority of teenagers who suffer that will grow out of it. Within a few years, that gender dysphoria will go away. For some smaller percentage, that dysphoria persists. And
I think you're confusing maybe gender dysphoria, or not just you, but these stats and people who report back are confusing sometimes gender dysphoria versus not feeling like, I don't know, a woman when you're growing up, or feeling like a man. So that's also what people, there's so many terminology and words and buzzwords out there these days that people try to label themselves with anything when sometimes it's just not that deep.
Wait, so Keeko, I have a question. I kind of asked this last show, and I don't think I really got a proper answer on it. So my question was, ignoring gender identity, ignoring gender, if we're just looking at sex, two males, I'm not talking about two men, I'm talking about two males. If two males were to have sex, is that not gay? Is that not homosexual? I'm not saying it's wrong, but is that,
since sexuality is
or homosexual?
I base sexuality off of gender, so I would need to know their gender and not their chromosomes.
So if you dated a guy, you were dating, or let's say you were married to this guy, he's been your husband for 10 years, and then one day he says, I'm a woman now, and you went and you engaged in that thing married couples engage in, would you say you're a lesbian now? So the husband you've been married to for 10 years?
Well, she wouldn't be a lesbian, but maybe she's bisexual now, or maybe she's...
No, but her husband is now her wife, but right?
I get what you're trying to get at.
Yeah.
Your point you're trying to get at. And technically, Yeah, I
But
mean,
you don't
I think
believe
it's,
that,
I think
obviously.
it's, I think it's would be ridiculous,
Yes.
like for people to like, you know, go out in public and not transition themselves at all and expect to be like, if you thought your pronouns were she, hers, to expect people to refer to you as she, her, or ma'am, whatever, presenting yourself like this. Yeah, I think things like that are ridiculous.
Yeah.
There has to be some types where it says gender roles.
So then
that's
you-
the whole. That's the whole reason why they're wanting to say they're transgender, is because they want to follow the other gender role, right? So follow the gender.
So then
role
instead,
but
this is a great point, because this is where I differ from some of the conservatives here. A lot of the conservatives say gender expression's totally fake and sex is all that matters. And I'm kind of with you in the sense that I think gender expression obviously is real. There are feminine men, there are masculine women, all of that's true. But instead of concluding, therefore, that we have the right not only to have any gender expression we want, but actually to be the different sex and to call myself a woman or call myself a man, why didn't we take in the other direction and say, if you're a man, there's obviously diversity is the spice of life, but you have a general obligation to act like a man. And if you're a woman, you can be kind of diverse and you can be a little more tomboyish maybe or whatever, but you have a general obligation to act like a woman.
I feel like we do, and if you don't, you get bullied and ostracized into the group.
There's cultural pressure.
Let me interject really quick. We have 8,000 people watching. The chat is on fire. Guys, I just got a text.